before. I know.
Like, this is a first for you and everything.
Go
right?
read this. Oh yeah, well, you know, in other segments we're going to talk about health.
I'm ready.
So many topics we need to discuss and just laugh and just grow together. Hair, makeup, again, like I told you, relationships, just anything we can think of to try to help us bond.
Children.
Oh, girl, yes, I have plenty of questions on that. Are we ready, folks, on it?
Yeah.
Shirley, go ahead.
Okay, so before the devil tried to get in this camera.
Yes.
But we have another phone.
Yes, won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Yeah.
He will make a way. But as I was saying, so a preacher's kid, and the stigma for church folks back in the day was you don't tell stuff. And so for a long time I didn't tell things I had gone through even prior. And so getting married at an early age, at the age of 20, I loved my husband. So I did marry for love, not because we had kids, because I had children while we were married. And both of us just loving Jesus like to the fullest that we could love him. And he was a deacon in the church and got mixed up with the wrong crowd. He came to me and he asked me, hey, you think I should, open up this store? And I just said, I don't think you should. I just didn't feel right about the people that had come to him to ask him. And he's like, oh, you just don't want me to have nothing. I said, Les, think about this for a little bit. Because if you have, then we have. Right. If you don't have, then we don't have. So that's the dumbest thing I ever heard you say. Like, that didn't even make no sense. So needless to say, he went on, and I don't know what he asked me for, because he did what he wanted to do anyway. And he opened up his store, and downhill from there it went. And it went downhill pretty quickly from that time. Needless to say, first let me say this. Abuse is not just verbal or physical. Neglect is one of the first stages of abuse. When you neglect anything that you neglect in this world, it will eventually die. You even have to take care of your car. So for all of you that neglect your car and don't get oil changes, come next year you're gonna need another car. Because you can't just keep running on the same oil. It don't work. And so for me, neglect is where it started from. It just now he had to go to New York. He had to start buying all this stuff, and I was just like, well, here we go, and I had the children, and so to move forward, we're on this train, so stay with me because it's going fast. The first time, I didn't leave the first time because the first time was so small and so minimal to me. I was like, oh, that was nothing, but I come from a mother who was strong, and she went through abuse, and I tell her all the time, Mom, you gotta tell your story because people won't know unless you tell your story. But she's so strong, and she had been through abuse, and one of the things that she instilled into her daughters was, I went through, so you wouldn't have to. And so when you see these signs, like, it starts small, but it grows. Once they know they can get away with it, it'll continue to escalate, and it'll continue to go to a place that you really wasn't expecting because of love, So I remember the first time, just anniversaries would come, and he'd just come throw a gift on the couch, and he's like, gotta go. And I'm like, this is miserable. And I shut down. I began to shut down because of the neglect. And so I remember one day he came home, and I didn't want to talk. He wanted to talk. I didn't want to talk. And he kept pushing me. He would push me in the room like, you're not coming out. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I'm a grown woman. You're not putting me on punishment. What is happening? Like, hello. I'm like, the kids need to be in or something. Like, you better leave me alone. But he would push me in, and he would close the door, and I would open the door, and he would push me back in. But the second time he pushed me back in, I said, I don't know what's going to come out when I come out the third time if you do it again. So he pushed me back in for the third time, and when I opened up the door, I'm telling you all, I literally blacked out. I just came out and I just, church girl and all, with this little fist, I just clocked him.
It's not funny, but I didn't see the story.
Yeah, like I just clocked him. And I had my daughter. I don't have any girls, but I was raising her, and she was sitting on the couch, and she was sitting there, and she heard me continue to keep telling him to stop pushing me in the room. I'm not your kid. Like, I don't want to talk because I know if we talk, it'll escalate. And so let's just leave it where it is until you calm down. And he just didn't want to. So when I came out that third time, I just get a mother mad and we'll lift up a car. Like,
yes. Two cars.
And so when I came out again, I hit him, and I seen him fall up against the wall. He was a big guy again. I was a little thinner than what I am now, and I didn't see anything. And my daughter was sitting there. She was like, and I was like, I still didn't see like what I had done. Oh, it took a while, a couple of minutes. It felt like forever, but for me to come to, and I just seen blood everywhere, and he was just like dazed. And I'm like, what did I hit him with? I was like, whoa. Yeah, like I should have been making some money from one of them. So she called my mother. My mother showed up at the house, and my mother was like standing there. She's like, what happened? My daughter said, oh, he kept pushing her in the room, and like she was like a kid. And my mother's like, and turned around and walked out. He's like, I should call the cops. I was like, well, you should. Because, I mean, look at you. You're like 280 pounds. Look at me. I'm defending myself. So that was the first time that the abuse started. But in my mind, I'm like, he's mad. Because I want to say this. Sometimes when you're going through abuse, you make excuses for it.
Right.
And you always say something. You like, again, with the one of the conversations with the phone call, you knew you just don't want to accept it. And so you make excuses for it. So I made an excuse like, oh, that's not abuse. Like, he was just like trying to put me on punishment.
Well, especially because you hit him, so he was
exactly.
like,
so I was like, oh, I got that dude back.
We good. All right.
So I was like, I came out bucking. Let's start over. But that was the first time, and then time went by. And the second time, my mother and father, they went to Holy Convocation for Church of God in Christ in Memphis, Tennessee. And he came home and again, mad, upset, frustrated. And I remember being in the kitchen, and he's just going at it. And you get to a point where you're like, oh my God, like enough is enough. And at first, I'm gonna defend myself. So I'm going back at it with him, and then I just say, this ain't even worth it. I don't want to talk about it. So he comes in the kitchen, and he's just going on and on and on, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he started really raging, and he was like, I will hurt you. And I'm like, I grabbed me a knife, and I held the knife up, and I said, if I won't swing it at you, but I'm not gonna move it from where it is. I said, but I'm shaking because I ain't never cut nobody. I'm not chicken the night. I'm like, we lived in the ghetto. I heard about the stabbings. I'm like, I heard about the stabbings, but I didn't stab nobody. I was like, I'm like, if you move closer, it's just gonna stab you itself. And so he was so angry, he just walked toward the knife, and I didn't move it, and it hit his face, and the tip of it hit his face, but then he grabbed it because I was too scared to kind of really so he grabbed it, and he threw it, and he choked me with both his hands, and he picked me up off the floor. And I just remember, like, he was way bigger than me, and I just remember him put me up against the refrigerator, and he was choking me so hard that I couldn't say a word. And just tears began to roll down my face. That's how hard it was. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna die. My daughter lived with me at the time too. And so I don't know what made her come out the room, but she came out the room and she screamed, "Get off my mom, get off my mom." And so I don't even know if he knew she was there, and he let me go. She called my brother, and my brother came over. Now I was hurt, because like, I was almost dead.
Right.
But my house was nice. And my brother came over to fight him, and I was like, just take it outside. You know?
Oh my God, you're really making jokes out of this. Don't mess this up.
Listen, no, that ain't a joke. I was like, don't take it outside. Because my TV was expensive, my dining room table was expensive, right. And my mother taught me like to keep your dining room set. So I kept my dining room table set, and I'm like, just fight outside, you know, because my kids were still there anyway. But I make a joke of it now because I'm through it.
Right.
And
I know, I get it.
It was nowhere near funny at the time, but my kids were there, so I didn't want my brother coming in, although he came up. Needless to say, my husband wouldn't go outside. And I was like, that's because you gonna get beat up, you know. It was just, you know, he didn't end up going outside, but I left the house for that week. He calmed down, and again, he called. "Shirley, I'm so sorry. I want you to come back." And I'm like, well, that's my apartment. I am coming back. You need to go. I'm like, I'm just waiting for my mom to get home. Because that was my apartment. Like, when he moved into the apartment that I had when we got married. And so, I remember after that, I could not move. My neck was so stiff. I couldn't turn it to the left. I couldn't to the right. I mean, just I could not. It was something. I never went to the doctors because again, I'm like, if I go and I report this is happening, and it was just he's the father of my kids, and again, like where I'm at now is what I say is, if you're not honest about the truth in you, you won't get help.
No.
And I had to say that it was a fearful place to be at where. It was my apartment, but he was paying all the bills, you know, and I got used to keeping my money for myself, and it's not that I was making a whole lot, and he was the provider, and so, but it was the third time, and this was my final time. He had, again, rageful, but the neglect continued. The neglect never stopped, and I was just a lonely wife, lonely. He comes in, and he's like, we gotta talk. I want to talk about what's happening in our marriage. Well, like it's 11:30 at night. I want to go to sleep. I don't want to talk. No, I want to talk.
You could ask me this morning.
Yeah. He's like, no, I want to talk, and I didn't want to talk. So he took our bed, and he flipped the whole thing over while I was in it. And so I ended up on the other side of the bed, and I just laid there, and I said, here we go. I just took a deep breath. And I thought he was going to leave me alone because I didn't come out. I was like, I'm not trying to move. I'm just staying right here. And he's like, let's go. I told you I want to talk. And I'm like, I just don't want to talk. He ended up taking the bed and pushing the bed down and grabbing me. When he grabbed me, he's like, no, you're going to talk. We had an Indian rug in our living room that was like a raised rug. And so we ended up in the living room because he was, you know, pushing me and different things like that. And so we ended up in the living room. He's like, you're going to talk? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just don't want to talk. Like, I just want to go to bed. And God, I'll never forget. He got so mad. He just took me and he just flung me across the raised rug. And I was like, oh, it hurt so bad. I just laid there. He came and he grabbed me from that side and he flung me across 4 times. Once, then back again. And it was just scarring up my arms and my legs. It was terrible. I mean, you could see bleeding. I mean, I'm just like, okay. But the last time when he flung me back over, it was the side where my dining room table was at, and it was all glass. And when he flung me back over, I hit the table. It broke, all the glass fell, and there I was laying on the floor. as I was laying on the floor, he walked into the bedroom, and I seen the phone, and I just tipped the phone over, dialed 911, and I put a plate over the phone so he couldn't see that the phone was off the hook. And so he came back out, and I heard them saying, ma'am, are you all right? Are you all right? But they heard him yelling and screaming and hollering. And he grabbed me. His anger was so terrible. He grabbed me from the floor, and I lived on the 3rd floor, and he took me to the window, and he hung me out the window, and he said, I should just kill you right now. And I said, you might as well, because I don't have any fight at all, so I can't even fight you through this. And then my kids didn't know they was up at the time, and then I looked from the corner of my eye, and they was standing there.
Oh my gosh.
At the door, and they started screaming, "Get off my mom!"
And you was hanging out the window.
And I was out the window. With just tears rolling down my eyes, not saying nothing. And then when I seen that, again, we got power in our hips.
Yeah.
There was just something about it.
Second wind.
Yes, there was just something about it. I kind of kicked out of it.
Right.
But he was stronger than me. And when he seen the kids, like, I guess that made him feel bad. And so he kind of like pulled me in. But then the police was there. And then he tried to run out the back door, and he's like, I can't believe you called the cops. And what?
Well, I can't believe you're doing this.
Yes. And I was like hanging out the window, and he tries to run out the back door. Well, I heard the cop coming up the stairs, and what was left in me, I was like, he's running out the back door. So he called into the other cop and said, go to the back, go to the back. When I let the cop in, he just could not believe it. And when they caught him and then they see me, they're like, are you serious, guy?
Yeah.
She's like 90 pounds at the time, soaking wet.
Right.
I'm not too far from 90, so don't trip.
Right. He was getting empowered.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
Yeah, and so he ended up going to jail from that. I restraining order, and that was it. And we never went back. It was over.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So pretty devastating.
Right. Wow. That one kind of left me speechless.
Yeah.
No, just because in my mind, as I'm just thinking, because part of your story, and even yours, I just felt myself getting angry. Because the hurt that you do cause, I can visualize it, especially because I'm a writer.
Yes.
But then it brings me back to myself and why I was doing the things I was doing,
Right.
and it's the anger. You know what I'm saying? And being a bully.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. I was being a bully. So they were being bullies. And even though the dudes were bigger than I was just, I was being a bully.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it was just awful.
Yeah.
It was just an awful situation I was in. And your story, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, how were your kids traumatized?
They still remember today. And they wouldn't just come out and talk about it, but if you ask them, they can tell you word for word everything they seen. And so I ended up dating after a while, because let me just say that when you go through stuff like that, I know there's a lot of women in the world that are hard, but it's for men as well. It's for a reason, and we don't know if it's domestic violence or whatever the situation may be, because a lot of people are so afraid to come out and are so afraid to talk about it for fear of being judged, and so many different.
You just don't want to be hurt again.
Yeah, so many. You don't want to be hurt again, and so they're hard, And so I remember dating, and eventually years later, going to get married, and my children said, "No, we want to sit down and talk to him," and they were like younger at the time, and they told him, they said, "Listen, we seen what my father did to my mother, and we're just letting you know like, you better not do it.
Right. Wow.
And so,
Your kids are brave.
yeah, definitely.
And even really cognizant of that actual
Right.
abuse that they can approach the new guy.
And I did forgive. I forgave because what most people fail to realize is that forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. And in order to move forward in life, you have to forgive. You know, because if you don't, you take that with you.
Right.
And so I forgave him because I needed to heal.
Right.
And to this day, I can laugh and joke with him as if he's, you know, never done anything, you know, to me. I mean, he knows what he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, in regards to, I just seen him the other day, and he's like, Shirley, like, I miss you. And I'm like, well, I hope you know when I get married again. That ain't happening, but, you know, but needless to say, like, I never talked bad about him to my children, to his children, because even it was so terrible because he ended up leaving. Like, my dad passed away in 2004, and I'll never forget that the end all was during that time after my father passed away. He said to me, he said, "Oh well, life goes on." And I said, "Oh, you're gonna regret that." And then, you know, 5 days later, he walked out. My kids, we never seen him again. And so, I was devastated for them because they didn't understand where their father had went, and why he just wasn't coming around anymore. So I should say I forgave him back then. Let me go back. I forgave him back then, and we were still married. We didn't get a divorce right away. I was at the time said, if we can do counseling and we can work through this, because you obviously have issues that stem from way before I came. But in that time frame that he literally like walked away, we didn't see him, hear from him, or anything. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, we'll work together, get this, you know, together, you know, get some counseling, get some help, because you need help.
Right.
Man, I tell you, 2 women ended up coming to me and was like, well, we're pregnant by your husband with twins.
Oh my God.
And I said, you know what? You can have them with them twins and all.
That was the nail in the coffin right there.
Because I see where this is going, and I'm not changing nobody else's status. So that literally at that point, the working it out, the counseling, all of that was my end all. It was literally my end all. And to this day, I remember telling him, I says, one day you're gonna see me on TV, and you're gonna regret everything that you've done to me. And lo and behold, he already does. He's come to me. He's apologized. I'm sorry. I should have never left you and the kids. I should have never did those things. I should have listened to you. And I'm not the type of person where I'm like, well, I told you so. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, you know what? You know, I forgive you. You know, God forgives you, and you know, we just leave it where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, do you have any words for anyone that's watching?
First of all, I want to say, like, with Tanisha's story and the fact that you have a husband now, one of the most powerful things that you can ever connect yourself with is people that help you get through it. Yeah. Because we never end up somewhere totally healed. Right. But you need to be connected with people that will help you get through it. They need to love you enough to help you get through those things in life that have caused you to, you know, be the way we are, like to be so shackled. Like when a pillow gets close to you, you're like, oh, you know, it's not, you know, it's not, you don't mean it, but it's kind of, you just need people, you know, to help you get through it. I know we have, you know, men in the audience, but for me, like literally everything about me as being a woman, I just totally shut down. You know, intimacy, don't touch me, like don't look at me. I thought men were just absolutely gross, you know, and it really took a toll on me. But that was, you know, I started somewhere when I was younger. You know, I've been through being molested and, you know, by family, and so I already was at a place that he knew. Mm-hmm. And then when you come behind that and you add to that and you don't love me through that, it just became
a recipe for disaster. That's what it was. And even though you said that, you guys were on fire for Jesus and stuff like that, because he didn't stay in the Lord.
He didn't stay.
He, the devil utilized whatever he was dealing with when he was younger, and it came out. And sometimes that happens. And they talk about mental health. Yes. A lot of us suffer, and we're grown now. I'm 47, and if I'm not dealing with those things in the past that offended me, eventually it's going to come out somehow. Exactly. And if I'm not staying in the Word and staying with the Lord, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to get distracted, and then of course you start seeing the anger and all those things come out. And I just pray that he reconnects with the Lord if he hasn't already. Amen. So that he can be the man God called him to be, and a husband again. Not to you.
Oh, it ain't gonna be.
No, I'm just saying. but
I'm gonna pray you through it.
I'm gonna be through, but no, so that he can heal. Yeah, because obviously he has issues himself, and a lot of us deal with issues, and if we don't deal with them now, they're going to surface, and someone's going to get hurt. And that saying that I used to say all the time on Facebook, hurt people, hurt people. That's the truth. That's what they do. And that's what I was hoping through these conversations and talking that we can get through. And now when you guys see Tanisha, you're going to be able to connect with her because you heard her story. She's talked to you and the audience, and now it's like, hey, how are you? Yes. And for those who do pray, you'll be praying for her. And likewise, and the same thing with Shirley, and we can just build from this.
And let me just add, like, what I want to say is, if you need counseling, get it.
Right.
Like, counseling is not a monster. Like, people that, you go to counseling? Like, yeah. Like, something's wrong with you if you get counseling.
Right.
Like,
you're crazy.
And especially in the black community, seriously, the black community, they're not as healthy as they could because they don't want to go to the doctors. Like, boy, you better get to the doctors. You know you got diabetes. Like,
your ankles are black.
Come on, like, you're passing out right now. Like, give me a Snicker bar. Go to the doctors to get medication. Like, what is wrong with you? Get that high blood pressure. Medicine. Like, stop all of this stuff. We wait so long to even go get checkups.
Nothing's preventative.
Exactly. And we wait so long. And then by the time you get there, you're like, you've been diagnosed with cancer for 15 years. You're like, oh, Lord.
I was fine until I went to the doctors.
Yeah.
I told you 15 years ago, and now you wonder why you're dying.
Like,
you never got help. Meds or anything.
Now you're mad at God. Like,
but I don't want you to really go there because that's what we talk about.
I know.
Another segment. Right,
another segment. But what I wanted to add is with the stuff that you're dealing with domestic violence, and I'm sure that those of you that are listening right now, you're not just gonna have a big burst of like sunshine and like it's not gonna be let me call somebody and tell somebody I just got my eye busted. I got it. But you need to tell somebody. You need to talk to somebody, and you need counseling. There's nothing wrong with you getting counseling. There's nothing wrong with you getting help. I ended up getting counseling, and it wasn't even for the domestic violence. It was something else I went through, and I ended up at counseling, and they started from way back in my childhood days. Like, there's a reason why you just blew up,
right? And
so they go all the way back, and I'm like,
there's nothing back there.
I'm like, lady, I'm leaving because I'm not going all the way back into my history to tell you why I'm here today. And then when I finally began to open up with the counseling, this was just 3 years ago, I sat in her office and I broke down and I cried. And as I sat there, I'm wiping my face like, oh my God, and I'm apologizing for crying. And she's like, what are you apologizing for? And I said, because you don't understand. I'm supposed to be strong. Like, I can't break down. Like, when they look at us, they're like, what are you crying for? Like, wipe that off.
Just especially because you're a child of God.
Exactly.
It's like nothing's supposed to be wrong.
Don't you know God is a healer? Yeah, but right now I'm broken. And so nothing is wrong with getting and I thought something was wrong with me for crying. Like,
Right.
you see, like the stigma.
And you're a female. We tell the dudes don't cry, but for you apologizing for even being a female and crying.
Yeah. So just get help. I guess that's one of the most things that I can leave with you is if you need help, get help.
Right.
Get help. Don't stay in it.
Right. Well, thank you, Shirley, for sharing your story. Thank you, Facebook Live. We'll see you in December with our second segment, and we hope you are here. God bless.
Bye.